In this video, I'm going to show you this really awesome text animation inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we want to do is just create a nice soft color background. So I'm going to cover this in length. I'm just going to very quickly say you need to go to Project, New Item, Black Video, press OK, drag that onto Video Layer 1. Then we'll just increase the duration of that. We'll go into Effects, search for Tint, that is T-I-N-T. That should be under Color Correction. Then we'll drop that onto our black video and we can select Matte Black 2 and select a nice color of your choice. I'm going to go for a nice soft blue, something like that. Then I'm just going to lock this off so we don't mess with that accidentally. So from here, now we want to go ahead and create a template because we need to separate this text animation into individual layers. But it's going to be very difficult to frame that up and move things around and make it look uniformed. So if we create a template first, we can lock that off and then use that as a guide for moving individual letters later on. To do that, we'll go to the T icon, click up here, and we'll just type out a word or phrase of your choice. I'm going to go for Brooker. Then I'm just going to go into this Effect Controls window, go into the text, and I can change the font here. Now you want this to be something a little bit more fun. You don't just want to go for a boring or a traditional font. You want this to be a little bit more fun. Great, so this is the font that I've used. It is a font called Super Fresh, and as you can see, this is how this looks. So it looks a little bit nicer. It's a bit more playful. I'm just going to increase the size of this though, just because it's quite a small font, and then just make sure that is in the middle. Now I'm also going to decrease the opacity all the way down to a smaller number of somewhere around 20%, so we can see it, but it's not in the way of what we are going to do. Now I'm just going to make a copy of that. So to do that, I've held Option and dragged the clip up. That is on Mac. On Windows, it is Alt. So hold Alt and drag the clip up. Alternatively, you can just copy and paste. It's completely fine as well. Now I'm going to lock that template layer. I'm going to go to the top layer. We'll increase the opacity back up, and we're just going to delete everything except for the first character. So that is just the B. Now from here, I'm just going to move this over to the left. I'm just going to move that on top of the B. Then I'm going to go into Effects and search for Wave. So that should load up Wave Warp under Distort. We'll drop that on to the text. And if we go into Wave Warp, we want to change the wave type to circle. I mean, we can change it to uncircle. We can change it to semicircle. We can do what we want, but I quite like the look of circle. Now, if we increase the wave height, we can increase it to something like this. And this is the effect that we are going for. We want to kind of have it wiggle into place. So we're going to start off really tall. So let's go for somewhere around 150. We'll go to the very beginning and create a brand new keyframe on wave height. Then we'll go maybe 4 frames to the right. And we'll go to a negative number. So somewhere around here. So that's negative 70. Then we'll go another 4 to the right. And we'll go plus 50, 60. Then we'll go back to negative after a few frames and just keep working through until we eventually get down to 0. So what we're doing is we're going a positive number, a slightly smaller negative number, a slightly smaller positive number, slightly smaller negative number, and we're just working our way, bouncing between until we get to 0, a bit like a pendulum. So if we play this back, you'll see this is what we have. So you can see it's a little bit fluid now. You can see because it's bouncing between the positive and the negative, there's some elasticity there and it is bouncing between. Now, if you wanted to, you could also change the wave speed throughout. You can change the phasing as well. So you can have a play with some of these settings. It's completely your call. Just have a play here. But this is the bare bones. Now you can highlight all of those keyframes and convert those to ease in keyframes. And that's just going to help to blend that animation a bit. And you can also delay the last keyframe so it takes a while to set into that last position. But that is essentially the effect complete on the one character. So from here, I'm just going to drag that down onto 3. Now I'm just going to make a copy of that layer. I'm going to drag that up onto 4. We'll change this to an R. And then we'll just go down to Motion and we'll just pull this over on top of the other R. And now when we play this back, you can see we've got 2 layers doing the same thing. So now we just need to do the really painful thing and just work through character by character until we get the finished word. So I'll see you in a moment. Before we carry on with this video, I first just want to take a very quick second to talk about Motion Elements. Motion Elements is an online library for Premiere Pro, After Effects, Final Cut, loads of different templates. You've also got stock videos, graphics, audio files, and so much more. And the great thing is I have partnered up with Motion Elements. They have become my channel sponsor, and as a special thank you to you, they are giving you a 70% off your first month. So you've got access to unlimited downloads, you've got creative use over those however you want them, and you can use them forever. So back to the video. Great, so now that I've finished this, you can see this is what we end up with. So they're all animating on at the same time. It looks a little bit messy at the moment. Now, at this point in time, we are finished with the template. We can delete it, but I'm not going to delete it just in case I need it later on. So I am just going to turn it off and then lock that bottom layer. Now, in order to clean this up, we want to stagger these on. So we want the first letter to appear, and then after a little bit, the second character to appear. So B, R, O, O, and carry on that pattern. So at the very beginning, we'll leave B where it is. Then we'll go 4 or 5 frames to the right, and we'll move R over. Then we'll do the same again and move O over. And just keep doing this over and over again until every character is offset by 4 or 5 frames. Just keep it the same. If you decide to do 4 between the first 2, then make sure you're doing 4 a bit later on because it creates that nice consistency. Now, as you can see, at the moment, that looks really cool, but I feel like it's missing something. So at the very beginning, I'm going to go to B. I'm going to go into Effects and search for Transform. So that should be under Distort. We're going to drop that onto the B, and that should appear up here. So we're just going to go to the beginning. We'll increase the scale on the B up to not a massive number. Let's go for 113. Create a brand new keyframe on this scale. Then we'll go maybe 4 frames to the right. And we're going to do that ricochet effect, that pendulum effect again. So we're going to go under 100. So let's go for 90. And then we'll go 5 or 6 frames to the right and pull that back to 100. So it's now bouncing in to that point. If you wanted, you can make that first point a little bit bigger if you wanted to really emphasize that effect. And you can make the second one quite small. So rather than 90, we could drop it to 70. So we're going quite small there. And of course, we can use some motion blur here because this is transform and not the motion tab. We can deselect the composition shutter speed and we can pull the shutter angle up to 180, or we can even go all the way up to 360 to create a lot of blur there if you wanted. But I think 180 is fine. Now, there's loads that we can keep doing to this effect. There's loads of different variations and there's loads of different plugins and techniques and things that we can do to really bring this to life. But this is the text effect essentially now complete. So all I would do from here is just highlight all of the text layers, right click, nest this into its own nested sequence. So we'll call this text. And now you can see we can control the scale and the position of this text layer and just treat this as a word as opposed to individual layers. It just makes animation so much easier. And there you go. I do hope you have fun with this effect. It's not an effect that you're going to be using on every project. It is only going to be specific for very specific projects. However, it is a fun effect and I hope you do find some use for it. So thank you for watching this video. I really do appreciate your support and hopefully I will see you on the next video. See you there.